Henry strode through the sleek, glass-walled corridors of his company, the click of his polished shoes echoing like a metronome of power. Each step, each gesture, radiated confidence, the kind that commanded attention. The city skyline stretched beyond the windows, glittering like his carefully curated life. To anyone watching, Henry had it all: wealth, status, influence. But behind the tailored suits and commanding smile, he carried a quiet disdain, a shadow lurking in his chest whenever he thought of Megan. Megan, his wife of 15 years. Once radiant, supportive, and endlessly loyal, she had been the foundation of his ascent from obscurity to prestige. But as Henry climbed higher, her simplicity became a mark of shame in his eyes. She didn't sparkle at galas, didn't charm investors with confidence and allure. She was safe, predictable, ordinary. And ordinary was the last thing Henry wanted to project. Phoebe, in contrast, was everything Megan wasn't. Youthful, magnetic, audacious, she thrived on attention. When she walked into a room, the air shifted. Henry had discovered in her a weapon, a reflection of the image he craved, influence wrapped in beauty, charisma that dazzled and distracted. And tonight, Phoebe would accompany him to the meeting that could cement his legacy. Dinner with Megan was calm, almost painfully serene. She moved around the apartment, setting plates with quiet grace, her gentle smile illuminating the dimly lit room. "Dinner's ready," she said softly, her eyes searching his for the briefest moment of connection. Henry's chest tightened, a pang of guilt he brushed away. "Thanks, love," he replied, sliding into his chair, masking his true intentions behind a smile. "Remember that meeting I told you about? It's set for tomorrow. Important investors. I'll need to travel." Megan nodded, serene, unassuming. "Of course, Henry. I know how much it means to you. If you need help, I can pack for you." He smiled, heart racing, not with anxiety, but anticipation. She trusted him completely. She had no idea what he had planned, no inkling that Phoebe would step into her place, dazzling the room while Megan stayed at home. Later that night, Henry called Phoebe, his voice brimming with calculated excitement. "The meeting's confirmed. I want you by my side. Your presence is essential. This is our chance to impress them, to close the deal." Phoebe's laugh was soft, confident. "I'll be there. Don't worry, Henry. We'll make them see what you're capable of." He imagined the scene vividly. Investors' eyes on Phoebe, admiration in every glance, the contract sealed, his prestige untarnished. Everything was perfect, or so he thought. Outside, the city lights twinkled like a promise. But somewhere in the quiet corners of his world, a storm was gathering. Megan, unnoticed, had already begun to weave her own plan. And Henry had no idea that the foundation of his carefully constructed world was about to crumble. The morning of the trip arrived with impeccable clarity. Buenos Aires shimmered under the sun as Henry and Phoebe descended the steps of the private jet, her heels clicking with an elegance that drew every eye. Henry felt a surge of pride. Every glance at Phoebe was a confirmation of his success, proof of his foresight. Inside the hotel's grand conference room, the polished wooden table gleamed, its surface reflecting the intense anticipation of 3 key investors. Henry, already rehearsing his charm, strode to the head of the table, Phoebe by his side, her smile radiant, poised. He introduced her confidently. "Everyone, this is my wife, Phoebe. Integral to our vision and invaluable to our future." He expected admiration. What he got was scrutiny. The female investor raised a perfectly arched eyebrow, her lips barely twitching in a controlled smile. There was a sharpness in her gaze that unsettled him, a subtle weight he could not ignore. Henry launched into the proposal, projections, charts, percentages. Phoebe nodded in all the right places, her attention unwavering. But the investors' questions were precise, unexpected. Structural changes? Governance? Resource allocation? Each inquiry chipped away at Henry's confidence. His practiced charm faltered, his certainty wavered. Phoebe's smile faltered slightly. She too sensed the tension, the unfamiliar sharpness of this woman's intellect. Henry felt a chill run down his spine. Something was off. Something was wrong. And then, with a slow, deliberate motion, the woman removed her wig, revealing cascading dark hair, familiar eyes, the eyes of Megan. Henry froze. The room dissolved around him. Phoebe stepped back, bewildered. Megan's calm, calculated demeanor filled the space. No words could prepare Henry for the crushing revelation. The woman he had underestimated, dismissed, believed incapable, was not only present but commanding the room. "I am one of the main investors in your company, Henry," Megan said softly, but each syllable landed like a hammer. "While you were distracted, I quietly built influence, acquired shares, and now I control a significant part of your empire." Henry's carefully curated illusion of control shattered instantly. Phoebe looked from Megan to Henry, confused and powerless. Henry opened his mouth. Nothing emerged. Megan's serene authority left no room for argument. "You underestimated me," she continued, eyes steady. "You treated me as furniture, a passive observer. But while you schemed, I acted. And now, Henry, everything is mine to manage." Henry's pulse raced. His confidence, arrogance, and plans crumbled in seconds. He realized that the true game had been played without him, and he had lost spectacularly. Henry's mind raced. How had Megan anticipated everything? She had watched silently, waited, learned. He had been arrogant enough to believe appearances were reality. She had proven that substance outweighed performance. "You brought Phoebe here," Megan said, voice calm, cutting through his thoughts. "Trying to impress investors with charm and beauty while keeping me in the dark. How quaint." Phoebe's eyes widened. Henry's heart pounded. Megan's authority wasn't just revealed, it was absolute. Investors leaned forward, intrigued by her calm precision. Her questions, her decisions, all showed mastery Henry had never imagined she possessed. Henry's inner panic began to rise. Every carefully rehearsed line, every confident gesture, every manipulation of perception became meaningless. Megan had already rewritten the rules. He realized, in that instant, that his arrogance had blinded him to the one person who understood the business better than he ever would. He stammered, "And Megan." She didn't flinch. "There is nothing you can explain, Henry. Your actions have consequences. And now you are powerless to reverse them." The investors shifted their attention to her, nodding subtly, signaling respect and deference. Phoebe's role had evaporated. She was merely a shadow in the room, irrelevant to the authority Megan exuded. Henry's illusion of control was gone, replaced by the stark reality of his failure. Henry's mind raced, grasping for any sense of leverage. He tried to assert himself, to regain even a shred of authority. I can fix this. I can make it right." Megan's eyes, sharp and unyielding, pierced him. "Fix what, Henry? You've betrayed me, disrespected me, underestimated me. Your time of control is over. Every move you made under my nose was watched, analyzed, and countered." The room's tension tightened like a vice. Every investor present could feel Henry's vulnerability. Phoebe stood frozen, realizing she had been collateral damage in a far larger, strategic game. Megan's control was undeniable. She began outlining operational strategies, her voice unwavering, her decisions swift. Henry tried to interject, to remind himself that he had built the company, that he was the CEO, but even those words felt hollow in the presence of Megan's calm authority. For the first time, Henry comprehended the depth of his misjudgment. His desire for image and projection had blinded him to reality, to the very woman who had supported him, loved him, and now commanded the future of the empire he thought he ruled. The boardroom was silent as Megan concluded her plan. Henry sat defeated, his hands trembling, the weight of humiliation crushing him. Phoebe had quietly left, her role irrelevant, her place taken by the woman Henry had despised and underestimated. "Henry," Megan said finally, her voice cold but measured, "the company doesn't need you. I will lead. Your arrogance, your betrayal, your hubris, they have no place here. Reflect on your actions, for the consequences are yours alone." Every word echoed like a verdict. Henry's empire, carefully constructed over decades, unraveled in moments. His personal life, his reputation, and his power had been systematically dismantled by the very person he had dismissed as incapable. Meghan had orchestrated the perfect reversal, a quiet but complete triumph. Weeks later, Henry wandered the city streets, disconnected from the life he had once dominated. He passed the headquarters, now bearing Meghan's name in bold letters, gleaming in sunlight like a taunt. Every news alert, every headline confirmed her dominance, her brilliance, her triumph. Meghan thrived, restructuring, leading, winning contracts Henry had only dreamed of. Phoebe faded into irrelevance, replaced in the narrative of power by Meghan's deliberate, calculated authority. Henry's arrogance had been his undoing. Meghan's patience, intelligence, and strategy had secured everything. Alone, stripped of his illusions, Henry understood the lesson of his life. Never underestimate the quiet, the observant, the underestimated. Meghan had been silent, but she had never been powerless. And now he was left only with reflection, regret, and the echo of a world he no longer controlled.